This is Bill Jones from recapturefederalism.com. Another episode of Bill Jones from Freedom's Nest, episode 12. And that title and subject today, Communist Persecution of All Peaceful Religions. Yeah, another controversial title. They all are when you're dealing with communism. Just think about all the people in the world that have been killed as a result of communism. Talking about peaceful religions, just think about Pol Pot, the Communist Party of Cambodia, Kampuchea, as it's known, in the 1970s. How many peaceful, probably ain't no one more peaceful than Buddhist religion. Millions of them were killed in the Cambodian killing fields. That was at the hands of the communist Pol Pot and the communist Khmer Rouge. So let's talk about that and the communist persecution of all peaceful religions. And that's not somewhere else, that's in the United States. You hear the Democratic Party say separation of church and state. That's your religious persecution. Well, are they communists? Well, they adhere to the Communist Manifesto. They're either communist, pro-communist, communist sympathizer, blah, blah, blah. I've been over this before and will continue to be over it. You can call them what you want. I'm just talking about their behavior. And their behavior, I believe, is criminal, in my opinion. And that's why I source everything. Now we have, before I go any farther, I always want to say my oath. I, William R. Jones, do solemnly swear that I will support and defend the Constitution of the United States against all enemies, foreign and domestic, and that I will bear true faith and allegiance to same, so help me God. And I say that we talk about the Constitution, swearing true faith. That's a religious term there, isn't it? True faith and allegiance to same. First Amendment to the Constitution, the first thing they talk about is religion. I've talked about this in the past. There's two parts to that: establishment and free exercise. And I've shown you in the past where there's establishment of Communist Manifesto as a religion has been established. It's there. I'm going to go to the other end now, the other side. Free exercise of religion. You have a right to free exercise of religion. And that's all of them, all peaceful religions. Because if you're free exercise of peaceful religions, you're not violating any laws, at least not until now. Of course, they have come out with laws violating the Constitution. We have nobody else stand up. Nobody's standing up for Christians. Jews, we know, have said never again after the Nazis. And yet I got news for you, my Jewish brothers and sisters. It's happening again. It's not in Germany, it's here today. Religious persecution, anti-Semitic, anti-Christian, anti-peaceful religious faith. That's correct. It is. And where do I say that at? In 1847, the communist prophet Frederick Engels wrote the Communist Confession of Faith. They would then incorporate that the following year in the Communist Manifesto. But in 1847, what did he write? He did it with questions and answers. And the last question, which of 22, is 22. And the question is, do communists reject existing religions? And here's the answer. All religions which have existed here hitherto were expressions of historical stages of development of individual peoples or groups of peoples. But communism is that stage of historical development which makes all existing religions superfluous and supersedes them. Wow. What are you saying, Bill? I'm just reading it. It's not my words. It's the communist words. That's why I source everything. It's not my words. I may do a little interpretation, but I'm going to flat you. You don't even have to interpret much from them, the communist. Other than the fact you have to interpret that it's lies, what's lies and what's its truth that they're talking about, their truth. Of course, as Christians, we know the real truth is, and the word and the truth is the Holy Bible. Now, the year after that, 1847, he wrote that, and then 1848, the prophets, the communist prophets, Engel and Karl Marx got together, and Karl Marx says, we got to change that a little bit. We should be doing it as a catechism form. We should do it a little different form. And so they came out with the Communist Manifesto. They incorporated the original draft of the Communist Confession of Faith, and then they expounded upon it. And they did it on page 52. That question 22 is now question 23. What will be its attitude to existing religions? It's almost identical as the other one, but there's one significant word in here. And the answer: all religions so far have been expressions of historical stages of development of individual peoples or groups of people, but communism is the stage of historical development which makes all existing religions superfluous and brings about their disappearance. Yes, their disappearance. He wants all religions to disappear. Or they do. Both of those prophets of communism. And it's been expounded by all their followers. Expanded. But you notice, they go individual peoples or groups of people. They're into this big group thing, this class struggle, class chaos. And that's what you do when you start, some people dig this stuff to have devotions toward the religion, peaceful religions. All of a sudden, who are you, communists, to come along and say all other religions from the start of time are going to disappear? And how exactly are you going to do that? You're going to do that peacefully? I doubt it. You have a bad tradition already of doing most things through violence. Even the Lenin fist up in the air, a violent, hateful icon. Now, we have the founders, and they come along, and the framers of the Constitution. They came along, and back there in 1787, 1788 with the Constitution, and before that, Articles of Confederation. They had the American Revolution, Declaration of Independence. I'm going to give you from the George Washington's farewell address what they thought about religion and morality. Now, the original draft of the George Washington farewell address, he wrote. Then he asked his friend for some assistance. And he and his friend, Alexander Hamilton, who was also his Secretary of the Treasury, asked him to come in and help him out with this. And they came out with the final draft and the final address. There's a section, and I'm going to read it, and I'm not even going to comment too much on it other than reading it. It speaks for itself, and it's about 5 paragraphs. Some of them are rather large, bear with me. But this is the thoughts that went behind the Constitution of the United States. It's before communism. And there were other things before communism. Evil. Evil, of course, we know goes all the way back to the early stages of the Bible. In fact, I say the Bible's political science from cover to cover, and to me it goes all the way back to Genesis 1. 1. That's right. That's where I see it. They talk about darkness. One of the definitions of darkness is evil and wickedness. So it goes all the way back. And George Washington talked about religion and morality. And this is what he said. And these are quotes. Of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. In vain would that man claim the tribute of patriotism, who should labor to subvert these great pillars of human happiness, these firmness props of duties of men and citizens. The mere politician, equally with the pious man, ought to respect and to cherish them. A volume could not trace all the connections with private and public felicity. Let it simply be asked, where is the security for property, for reputation, for life, if the sense of religious obligation is desert the oaths which are the instruments of investigation in courts of justice? And let us with caution indulge the supposition that morality can be maintained without religion. Whatever may be conceded to the influence of refined education on minds of peculiar structure, reason, and experience, both forbid us to expect that national morality can prevail in the exclusion of religious principle. Next paragraph. It is subsequently true that virtue or morality is a necessary spring of popular government. The rule indeed extends with more or less force to every species of free government. And the question, who that is sincere friend to it can look with indifference upon the attempts to shake the foundation of the fabric? Next paragraph. Promote then an object of primary importance, institutions for the general diffusion of knowledge. In proportion as the structure of a government gives force to public opinion, it is essential that public opinion should be enlightened. Next paragraph. And this one, believe it or not, listen closely. It's about public debt and credit. That's a religious philosophy also. And I quote, as a very important source of strength and security, cherish public credit. One method of preserving it is to use it sparingly as possible, avoiding occasions of expense by cultivating peace, but remembering also that the timely disbursements to prepare for danger frequently prevent much greater disbursements to repel it, avoiding likewise the accumulation of debt, not only by shunning occasions of expense, but by vigorous exertion in time of peace to discharge the debts which unavoidable wars may have occasioned, not ungenerously throwing upon posterity the burden which we ourselves ought to bear. The execution of these maxims belongs to our representatives, but it is necessary that public opinion should cooperate. To facilitate to them the performance of their duty, it is essential that you should practically bear in mind that towards the payment of debts there must be revenue, that to have revenue there must be taxes, that no taxes can be advised which are not more or less inconvenient and unpleasant, that the intrinsic embarrassment inseparable from the selection of the proper objects, which is always a choice of difficulties, ought to be a decisive motive for a candid construction of the conduct of the government making it, and for the spirit of acquiescence in the measures of obtaining revenue, which the public exigencies may at any time dictate. Now there you go. And where are we at debit and credit wise in our country today? We're so far from the original Constitution. We're so far from that morality and religion that George Washington was talking about. In Romans 13, when we talk about good government, there's a section there, a verse that starts, and I forget the number right offhand, but it's, "Owe no man." You see, the basis was our religion and morality. In communism, there is no morality. It's an immoral religion, violent usually, genocidal usually. And where are we at today? Communist criminal class in control, doing much harm to our nation. Yeah, and they want to take our religion away. They want it to disappear. Are you going to let that happen? Are you going to collaborate with Satan and allow that to happen? That's a question I've asked myself. And that's why I do what I do. People don't even realize what they're doing. They're collaborating with Satan. Just as the Christians did in Germany in the 30s, collaborating with Satan. Until the next time.